Hello. Today we have a very sad podcast today. We're mourning the death of the Justice League. And my name's Thomas. This is the first lads, the Nerdom. And how are you holding up, Mike Shaw?
I'm doing all right, but this week was very, very brutal for this, and we gather here today to celebrate the
It's
life.
awake in a sense
It is.
for the heroes. Yes.
It is. I'm sitting Shiva for this, so to speak. So for the next 7 days
Yes.
until free comic book day comes out. So
And then celebration. All right. Hey guys. We're having a little fun with you there. But yes, we are going to talk about the death of the Justice League issue. And to start off, how long do you think it's last, their death? How many issues?
I'm going to say probably at least maybe a month to 6 months, depending upon how they want to do it. Whether they deal them back in layer by layer or they do like all one shot, who knows? But kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit. We'll dive into the issue and then we'll get. But this is issue 75 of Justice League. I was talking with my friends at work. They're going, "Oh, what are you going to talk about this week on the podcast?" We definitely have fans with my coworkers, and I thought, well, we'll be talking about the death of the Justice League issue 75, and they go, 75? Shouldn't that be high? I'm like, well, 75 in quotes. The bad thing about current comics is they want to revitalize people interest in comics, so every once in a while they'll restart a series and with the number one, because number ones always sell well, so they want that money, of course. So that's their big bag now, which makes it hard for a collector, because or if you're looking for a particular issue either online or wherever. I was looking for issue number when I was reading the first 100 issues of Fantastic Four, and I wanted to dig a little deeper into the issue. I was looking for issue 25 or whatever, and they were pulling up the current number 25. I don't want that one. But
Right.
So yeah, it just makes everybody a little bit more frustrated. I don't think anyone likes it except for the people that puts out the comic books. But then they want to have their cake and eat it too. So whenever a milestone hits, like the 1,000th issue of Detective Comics, all of a sudden it's issue 1,000, even though it's currently number whatever it was, 100.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that to a point, but to be honest with you, just being a human being and being alive and being a very casual comic fan over the decades of my life, the numbering is always off. unless you're
Yeah.
you're in the deep in the know, and even then it still doesn't make sense. So like they it's always like number one or I don't want to be as Luda saying it's just a money grab, but it is a money grab.
Well, the other thing I could see is there was a younger coworker that I worked with. I think he's moved on to a different job, but he I was talking to him, and he was into comic books. But he told me, since he was kind of younger, he was in his early 20s. He said, I was always kind of hesitant of reading, like, say, Thor or Spider-Man, because there was 600 odd issues. I didn't know where to start. And I was like, well, that's a very valid point. So I think with this numbering, they are kind of trying to combat that, since we are in a age where everybody has everything at their fingertips. And also, do you really I'm enjoying going back and reading the first 100 issues of Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, whatever, but they are of their time. And if you go back to that, I think if you forced yourself to read it to current, it may not be your to your palate. So but the great thing about comic books is where they were written through I think the 90s, was that any the motto of Stan Lee and then Jim Shooter, the editor-in-chief that took on after him, their motto was every comic book was someone's first issue. So
Good mentality. I like that.
so every issue should be able, the reader should be able to pick up what's going on. So with maybe word balloons or little catch up pages. But yeah, so that's and that's the way when I was collecting comic books, there was no at at one point I didn't know of the idea of a comic book shop was completely foreign. That wasn't something in you know in Arkansas at that time. It was like, what? No. And there was actually one, but I wasn't aware of it. But yeah, all I knew was the grocery store or the
Yeah.
drugstore, the little spinner rack. So
Yep.
or the used bookstore always had like a pile of comic books for a quarter or whatever. So you whatever you could grab, whatever you could grab and grabbed your attention is what you kind of picked up on. So
Yep, that's exactly where I didn't have when I was younger, when I was a preteen, whatever, really was into the comic books from like probably 10 to whatever. We go to exactly that. Now, fortunately, we live really close, so I could walk there. And of course, back then, like we didn't have as many helicopter parents as we do today.
Oh yeah.
So I would walk down and I would go I had my little routine. I had my little allowance and I would go get like, I think like a $1 or a $2 slice of pizza from the Little Caesars that was like right there connected to the thing. And I would go and get my X-Men comic book and my X-Men playing cards. And then just enjoy it. But they had like, it was where they had all the magazine racks and whatnot. And I would just go up. They had a little bit more than a spinner rack, but still it was enough. I mean, it didn't have anything, any depth to it, but it had the weeklies out, and it had every time I would go up there and I would, I'd go get my comic book and then kind of like do a little meat thing. And then I go snag a slice of pizza and just kind of sit down and chill and just nerd out.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar thing where my mom would go grocery shopping at the Safeway or the big, maybe it was the Piggly Wiggly, but she would go there, and while she was shopping, next door was a drugstore. So yeah, like I said, there at that time they weren't looking after us too much. So yeah, I would run over to the drugstore and spend all the time while she was grocery shopping, looking through the comic books and figuring out with my measly allowance which issues of comic books I could pick up, which was normally either there was going to be Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Spider-Man, or X-Men. those are my big four.
I think well, I'd be really, I want to say that I lived in Platteville, Wisconsin around that time, and I think it was a Piggly Wiggly. I was just doing a search here to see if I could find it, but it had to have been. It wasn't all these. All these wasn't back then. They weren't there back then. So it had to have been a Piggly Wiggly, or it had to have been like a generic Shop and Save or whatever of that era. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sure if I talked to my mom would remember, but I'm sure my mom would have some choice words about it too. But who knows? Good memory. Good memory.
Yeah, I think all the Piggly Wigglies are out of Arkansas, but yeah. And if you're wondering, Piggly Wiggly is a grocery store for those that aren't blessed with those. I looked and they're still around, but yeah, those that are overseas or they're in parts of the United States that aren't familiar, yeah, that is the grocery store, and they have a pig as their mascot. I'm sure they still do, but
yeah, that's funny. I have grocery stores have a special place in my heart a little bit because I have a lot of memories around them for some reason. I don't know, but comic books. Also, my very first job was as a bagger, 14 and a half, something like that, and it was a Red Owl, or it was I think it went out of business, but anyway, it was Piggly Wiggly. I remember Kroger going to see my grandparents, in the summertime, and they had anyway. I digress, but yeah, no.
Yeah, you thought we were going to talk about a funeral of Justice League. This whole podcast is going to be about the grocery stores we remember.
Yep, we're going to talk about
children.
every grocery store chain in America. No. Good, getting back to center here.
Right.
Nostalgia notwithstanding.
Right.
So set us up here. The Joshua Williamson and who's the primary inker or a penciler or artist, I guess. I don't know. Like these are. I'm horrible with names.
Yeah, well, penciler
there's a lot.
Yeah, the penciler is Rafa Sandoval, and the inker is Jordi Tarragona. Yeah, I'm not. Rafa sounds somewhat familiar, but
that's what I think too. I mean, I've heard him before, but I don't know. I'm just trying to like dig through some of his stuff for you all. Anyway, not to belabor the point, but getting back to the main thing here. This is legitimately the death of the Justice League, and sometimes they do this thing like where they claim it, and then it, death means many things in comic books, but this was very much the death of the Justice League.
Yeah. Basically, the story is there's a dark army coming in, and the
Pariah.
There's the Justice League Incarnate, which is a series about the multiverse, and there's a different multiverse Justice League that's about, and they call on our Justice League to help them out because it's going to destroy the multiverse. So they get called in, and like you said, they end up dead by the end of the issue. So
they do.
The death of the Justice League is correct. Now one of the thing about DC Comics is the art. The art always looks good, and even if you don't know who they are, usually the art is pretty solid in DC. Now Marvel sometimes is hit and miss. Unfortunately, I think you and I are both kind of Marvel guys, but
I agree with that.
But any DC comic I pick up has solid art, even if I aren't familiar with the artist. It's usually pretty solid.
Yeah, this is just like one of the just the artwork, and kind of like this is like when they get zoomed in from what is it, Hall of Justice or whatever.
Yeah, and just in case if you're a novice with comic book characters, you should know Clark Kent, Superman, and Wonder Woman, Diane, and then Bruce Wayne, Batman, and you have Aquaman. I don't know, I can't remember his real name. And then this is the John Stewart Green Lantern, not Hal Jordan. This is John Stewart. You have Black Canary, and she's married to Green Arrow. Yeah, they are married. You have Black Adam, and then
I want to say that's Hawke or something.
A Hawk woman, or
Hawke woman has a big mace. That she uses. Yep. Yeah, this I'm not going to do too much with this, but I just wanted to kind of like, I agree, the artwork in this, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the artistry around this, and the continuity of the. Sometimes you don't get consistent panels with folks, but this one was one that was definitely a nice one. I'm going to pull that off there. So, but anyway, and that is a direct thing from the comic book this week. But in any case,
and that's the core Justice League that gets killed. So, but the Justice League has had numerous people at any given time. So basically, I'm sure what's going to happen, this is speculation, is that the auxiliary members will take over, and then, like, say Superman's son, who is actually the lead for the Superman comic book, will probably take a center stage, and Bruce Wayne has his whole Bat family, so either Nightwing or his son Damian, who's the current Robin. You have Red Hood. I don't know who all will step up to help things out, but you have Hal Jordan. So Hal Jordan, one of the original Justice League guys, will probably step in to help things out. And just to touch on Joshua Williamson, he's a pretty good writer. I've been reading a lot of his stuff lately. He's doing a run on Batman before the new writer takes over. He's doing like a 6-issue run. He's also writing Robin and also Deathstroke Incorporated, and all three of those are they have a big storyline going on right now, which is going to be a 6-part series, all of them together, with the death of Ra's al Ghul. So there's a lot of death going on lately.
Yeah, there is a lot of death.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Joshua Williamson is killing them all. So kind of interesting.
So our heroes find themselves landed in this strange nexus kind of thing, and it's just this big battleground. But first they teleport them into like a staging area, and
with President Superman.
President Superman of Earth 23 or something like that. I probably got that wrong, but we got him, and that's Calvin.
Also, my favorite DC character, Captain Carrot.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah,
he's a rabbit. He is DC canon. There was a DC comic book series about various animal superheroes, and he was part of it. He looks more looks less Bugs Bunny and more kind of buff Superman type rabbit now, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then we find them, and then Calvin. I don't really know much about President Superman.
I don't know either.
Okay, cool. That wasn't just the only one. All right, cool. But so
I know a lot of Marvel, but yeah, with DC, I know I know certain areas. Like I know a lot about Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that's about it. I know a lot about Batman, some about Green Lantern, and some about the Flash, but everything else I have a blind spot. So I might know, I might not.
Yeah, that pretty much mirrors what I'm a big Superman fan, no matter what, regardless. But I've never heard of President Superman, and like that just bears out more exploration, like on the back issues or whatever of all these. But I was trying to find an image of Captain Carrot, but in any case, you also have Dr. Multiverse from Earth 8, who basically has these teleportation powers and zooms everybody into this area, and basically, President Superman's like, it's a war, no time, we got to go, and then everybody's like, Roger that, let's go, and then they zoom them over to the battle space. And then they meet Pariah, and then the battle ensues with the darkness.
The darkness, and it looks like they're going to overtake Pariah, and things are going to go great, and then things go south
very quickly. Yeah, they do. And Green Arrow plays a very big part. We won't spoil it, but he has a big assist. It's a very truncated battle scene. And sometimes you get that with these big multi-spanning storylines, but it was still, I agree with you. The artwork was really good as far as it goes.
And it's a kind of expensive comic for what it is. It's $7. It is double size, so you get 40 pages as opposed to 20. 20's the normal size comic, and those usually go about $3.99. So it is a little bit more expensive, but again, you're getting more content. Now, if you're kind of interested in this and you want to jump in, just know that they kind of jump straight into the action. There's not a much of a preamble. So if you're easily confused, you may get confused in this issue. Us not kind of being familiar with the characters, I'm sure Michael echoed me in this, that he was kind of confused a little bit too. But that's one of the things with comic books. You kind of have to kind of go along, especially if you jump into something, and a lot of times those little pieces get filled in as you go. But yeah, and for the art alone, it's worth kind of looking. There's lots of splash pages and a lot of really great looking stuff.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, the artwork was really good. I was so glad I did this, that we do this podcast anyway, and that I have you're like my personal little comic book thing. You're much more in depth on the artistry and whatnot. I think we've talked about this before in passing, but I'm a lot more of a sci-fi book nerd than a comic book reader per se. But I have enjoyed them over the years. But yeah, this was one to read for sure, and I'm glad you picked this one for us to cover this week. It was, it didn't have the slow boiling year-long march that I always mess up the name of it, but the big arc last year that I'm still working my way through again, like a little bit more in depth now that I have a little bit enhanced knowledge, I should say. But yeah, no, they and now and the bigger catch to this, the artwork was great, storyline was great. They got into the action. It wasn't like too truncated for my taste. It was good, tasteful. And then it leads us up to, and we've kind of been talking about this for weeks because we want to get the word out, but there is a free comic book day coming out. And apparently this story arc continues in Dark Crisis #1, which is slated to come out on March 7th, this coming Saturday, I believe, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be a free comic.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, I've been following the free comic book day since 2012 or something like that. And it used to be a little bit more wide open. But I think, as you've explained, it's kind of gotten more to like specific issues that you would go to.
Right. There's yeah, if it's going to be like my comic book shop, they'll have set up a special section that is just the free comic books, and they're marked as free comic book day comics. And I know it probably varies from place to place. There might be no restrictions, you can get as many as you want, but mine at the time was, I think you could as an adult get like 4 free, and then I think each additional was like $1, which isn't nothing. Right. And then I think the kids, they could get up to 6 or 8 or something. They was more lenient with the kids. So so yeah,
that's good. Good.
Yeah. So and they had a good selection. Now the thing also you made me think of this. I know you do your comic books digitally for the most part, but I do mine physical. I go to my comic book shop once a week. That's my excuse to get out of the house at least once a week. And I went Wednesday, comic book day, when comic books come out for my comic book shop, and Death of Justice League #75 was sold out, which I was kind of surprised because I know it's a key issue. I know they probably got as many as they could in, but it had sold out. There was like one variant copy, which I think we talked about variants last week, but it was a special variant that the comic book shop could sell at a higher price, and it was like $20, and I was like, I don't think I want to get it for $20. I knew we were going to talk about it this week, so I went ahead and picked it up digitally. But yeah, it was kind of shocked me that it was sold out. Like they still had like plenty of issue #1 of the new Amazing Spider-Man, but Death of the Justice League gets sold out. Now their live stream, they always do a live stream, my comic book shop does, of what's available currently on their shelves on Thursday on Facebook. And they went ahead and they said that they're probably going to get more copies of it in. So
press that for physical media and comic books, just when and you had alerted me too to let me know and I didn't go up to the comic book shop, but I reserved that for probably like probably 3 or 4 times a year. On a lean year, it's probably 1 or 2 times a year, but I just don't get up as much as I would like to. But regardless, so So the digital and whatnot, of course, it kind of matters how you read it, whatever, but not really. And actually, with that being said, because this was digital, I was unhappy with how I would read comic books. I really don't like to use the web reader, the new web reader for Marvel or DC, or I don't really have an image account, but I don't really like that. So it did push me to search for one that is a good one on PC. And we kind of talked about this very, very briefly, but several years ago, when Flash was a thing, that's how you could read the comic books, especially in Marvel, at least. I don't know about DC. I was not a DC leasee or or paying customer for DC stuff back then. I don't even think they had it. I think Marvel was first to the digital comic book game, but you had to have Flash. And I know people don't like Flash, but I love the way I got addicted to reading them on PC specifically for that reason. And of course, at the time they had pretty good growing. I think Comixology was growing at that time, but I didn't get an iPad until a lot later, after I had been reading them on PC for a while. But so I kind of missed that. I missed the interaction with it anyway. But I did find a good. It caused me to like look for a very good comic book reader. And there's one that I would recommend here just off the bat, for Windows. This is for Windows only, but this is a very great comic book reader. It's a little bit more .cbr files than necessarily like whatever. So as long as your comic book provider lets you download those and see those, sometimes they have to have DRM and some other stuff. But regardless, however you get your comic books, Cover is a great. Of course, this would probably be more in line with like indie or independent comic books. They're a little bit more freer reign as far as like letting you download the CBR file versus like DC or Marvel or whatever. And I'm sure you can download those at different websites. And there is a website that we have used throughout this arc, which is Thomas one is one that has. It's superior. This is from Thomas. This is just a plug for also for League of Comic Book, comicgeeks.com. You have that's a very good website. The problem that I have with the Marvel and the DC, when you go look at the comic books, and I pulled them up over the weeks. I don't know if anybody's paid attention, or probably not, but I have. They don't really give all that great info for the comic book. Like they just give the bare minimum. Whereas I prefer, you converted me over to using this website just for general info, because it's what you want to see right at your finger. It's not like some belabored maze that you have to roll through to try to find this comic book or that comic book, whatever. Plus, not only that, they actually show the artists and the creators and who made the comic book, which is so important to recognize those people, because without those people, we have no comic books.
And their names are clickable, and you can go through and say, "Oh, I like this guy. What has he written before or drawn before?" And I have to hang my head in shame because I didn't. We've been using this website, and I didn't think to recommend them or spotlight them. But
well, well, thank you. Regardless, I obviously have noticed, but this is like the standard one that we'll use, but it's superior to Marvel or DC. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, whenever I want to look for my new comic books, I just type on Google new comic books this week, although it's already stored on Google for me now. So all I have to start doing is hit in, and that's the first result, and I click that. And they're the League of Comic Geeks.com is the first option. At least for me, I think it's the top one anyway, because that's one I've been clicking forever, and that'll bring up the comic books that are coming out that week. And then there's like a date header at the top that you could skip ahead to see week to week what's coming out, so I can see how much comic books I'm going to get and how much money I'm going to have to spend on all of these.
They just dipping back into the comic book readers and whatnot. Comixology used to be like the I mean, boom, the best that you could have like on a device and whatnot. And then unfortunately Amazon bought them. And then Amazon, and I probably at some point I'll probably bring up the history of this later, but there was a very good YouTube channel video like where the guy talks about like the height of it, why it was so good. And then as Amazon bought it and then they retrograded it and then merged it into the Kindle app or whatever. And I'm not as picky as him, but I mourn the death of not only the Justice League, but of that particular, platform to be able to use, because that was where I bought quite a bit of comic books off that and read them. And that was like the first one, like where they had the panel view, like where it would just focus in on the panel and not just the whole page or whatever. Now this cover was that one that I recommended to read comic books on PC. Of course, it would be a lot more, it would be a little bit more immersive if you have like a touch screen on a PC. I don't have necessarily this PC, but I could see like where if you had a 2-in-1, it would just be a really nice. And we're talking about like 0.10% of all use that you would ever use your PC for, whatever your personal PC. Like nobody's gonna buy a PC just to read comic books, but I mean I might, but not really.
But I read mine on my Kindle. It's a 10-inch one, but I kind of want to have that way to kind of scroll through, like you were saying, like a regular comic book. So
right.
And I got the biggest Kindle, but so the thing I like is that it's big enough to where it looks. I want to see the whole page. Yep. The only problem with that is the splash pages. You kind of have to turn it on its side to get the whole thing, and otherwise it looks, or you have to kind of zoom in, and and that's to be honest why I still like my physical copies, because you can kind of look at them, and also there's when I was reading the Batman story for the Court of Owls for last week, there was an issue where Batman has gone crazy by the Court of Owls, and the whole issue was really cool in that some of the pages were upside down and on all of this, and in kind of weird angles and whatnot, which would have been great for a physical copy. And when I was originally reading it back in the day, it was a physical, and I was turning it and reading it. But with my Kindle, I was turning it and it would flip, flip for me the right way, and so that it was still upside down. I was like, oh man.
And I do my reading primarily on the iPad if I'm just casual or whatever. Like but the iPad is very good. It has been for years. I've been there, but of course they make a great product. And Apple does. But going back into this, I wanted to share some of the artwork here too. Before we get too long-winded, and I think there's a little bit more to say, but not too much more. But I'll just put this one up.
It's definitely a recommend. There's this, like I said, the story just kind of jumps into it, and there's not a whole lot to minutia to digest and to kind of pick over. So basically, we're going to show you some of the artwork to kind of grab you into maybe picking this up, but it's definitely a recommend for me, and I think the same for Mike.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and then I'm going to go to I think it would work, but
this is the death of the three main people here as they get blown into, and there's some theories already with especially with that image, theories on how they'll come back. There's some echoes from a previous, I think, Crisis on Infinite Earth, where the Flash gets killed, where there's sort of, even with the panel layout, it kind of echoes that. So there's some theories already on how they'll come back. So if you want to read up on that, there's that as well out there.
Yeah, but this is just a good at the inking and the artistry involved, and they did a good job for sure. And with that, I'll close that out, and we'll go back to our window here. But in any case, well worth the price. It comes in just shy under probably like I don't know, $7 in tax, probably more like $8, depending upon the state. You live in California, it's probably like $15. I'm just joking, but in Missouri, it would be that. That would be interesting to go to my local comic book shop and ask them about. I will go physically this coming Saturday. I will go in and I will go get that
and
and
I know
enjoy it.
the comic book shops that I've purchased from, one, I think one would give me 10% off. This was starting way back when I first started going to the comic book shop. As long as you got like a pull list going with him, he would automatically knock 10% off of the cover price. And my current one, as long as I think when you start doing a pull list of at least like 5 comics, they'll knock 10% off. And if you're a big guy and want to get like a 15 comic books, I think they knock 15% off. So currently I'm getting 15% off of the cover price. So that's almost like getting your tax and a little bit more off free for me.
Now explain to folks what a pull list is.
Okay, yeah. So say you like the Justice League, Spider-Man, or whatnot, and what the comic book shops will do is they say, okay, well, you come in every month for Spider-Man. Well, let me pull that aside for you. So just in case, like with this case, Justice League 75 had sold out. That wasn't on my pull list. I wasn't currently collecting Justice League, and it wasn't on my pull list. If it had been, it would have been there in my little box for me. But basically, so they'll pull those aside for you, and that you can add and subtract from that. And as an incentive to do the pull list with mine, they give you that percentage off, which I think is probably common from other comic book shops as well. So that's a way of saving a little extra on your comic books there.
Very good. See, we tips and tricks for sure. Yeah. I don't think we want to spoil this one, but it's very interesting what happened at the end of this one to kind of set up for the thing. Of course, you never know with DC, because sometimes the character they pick to be alive is the key to something later on down the line for why they did that. That's not always true, but sometimes it is. I'd be very curious this Saturday when we can go see or go get this free Dark Crisis #1 again. Crisis #1. That's when the storyline continues and we actually see what game they're playing, what they're going to set us up for. But
one last thing.
Sure.
My favorite cameo from the whole issue was Detective Chimp. I don't know if you noticed him, but Detective Chimp, he's he's one of my favorite characters as well. He's a member of the Dark Justice League, the current Dark Justice League. He's a chimp. He's a very smart chimp. He currently owns a bar, and he is a really smart detective chimp. So his name pretty much kind of sums it up. There you go.
Yep. They definitely have him for sure. And then, of course, they have Firestorm and Flash and Superman. I don't know.
That's Superman's son.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like when they go back to the Justice League and they're like figuring out what's going on and all that.
Yeah.
I recognize Firestorm, Detective Chimp, and I don't know who that is, but
maybe Nubia. I think she's a newer character. Maybe that's a guess. I don't know who she is.
I have no idea either. Yeah.
I know they just did a big run, big event for Wonder Woman called Trial of Wonder Woman, and they had I don't know how many different Wonder Women in it, and I didn't know hardly any of them. I was collecting Wonder Girl at one point. She's the Brazilian Wonder Woman, and I really like the artist that was doing that. and the writer. I think she was both writing and doing the art for it. And I was a bit confused because she was interacting with all the other Wonder Women, and I was just kind of lost with who all they were.
Indeed,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, good. It's all good. It's all good. This one is a super recommend from us. And I think that we will definitely revisit this, probably in a couple weeks or something like that, maybe, and we'll kind of like probably not as in depth as this one, but we'll see.
right.
We'll see how this storyline turns out. See how it turns out.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, let's roll into our weekly recommendations for comic books. Right. Oh, and this is just kind of to put it out here. This is the Dark Crisis Special Edition, I guess number 0, whatever that is. But
yeah.
And you know what? Good for them. I like this. They don't have well, that's until they publish it, but
yeah,
in a day or two, and then they don't even have the cover price.
Yeah, and the Dark Crisis, the actual, so this is going to be issue 0, and then the actual number 1 will be out in June. It looks like the first, like the 7th of June. But yeah, now if by chance these I'm sure these will be a hot item, especially since 75 sold out. So if you get to your free comic book day and it's gone, it's more than likely, if you pick up issue number 1, you're not going to be lost outside of, this issue probably won't get you lost, as far as, because if you go down and look at the characters that are involved, yeah, they got the all the major players in there. But yeah, I'm not sure what the story is going to be on this. But yeah, usually with the free comic books, they do add extra, but it's not going to be like something major that you're going to miss out on.
Yeah, they do have the backbenchers there. They got Booster Gold. He's a backbencher. And what I mean by backbencher is like not necessarily like tier 1 Justice League. Like they have like sub teams or whatever that like aren't quite, like AAA or whatever you want to call it.
Like I was talking about the dark Justice League. They have the more magician based superheroes like John Constantine, Hellblazer, and
right. Good catch. Red Tornado too, but I'm not sure on that one. And with that, we'll jump in. And you had one. This is one of you recommend this week for comic books as we transition from death.
Yeah. Death. Yeah. Now Star Wars Obi-Wan. I know some people are excited and maybe lukewarm to the new series. I can definitely what's my thoughts? I'll watch it. I don't have high hopes for it from all the buzz or the rumors and buzz that's been circulating it.
Now you're talking about the Obi-Wan series that will come out in about 20 plus days or something like that to Disney Plus. That's what you're referencing when you were just talking.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And
I
of course,
I don't know.
And of course they have this comic book limited series to kind of bolster the series. The reason why I'm excited about this and why I put it on my pull list for the show is that it's written by Christopher Cantwell, and Christopher Cantwell, he's a TV writer that has dipped into comic book writing, and he did a spectacular run, and he's currently still writing on Iron Man, and he did a wonderful, amazing run on Doctor Doom. And he did the show. He was a showrunner for *Halt and Catch Fire*. But yeah,
you mentioned that to me offline, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to catch up with that one. But for sure.
But yeah, he's definitely a good writer, and it's kind of interesting. He went from TV to comics, where most most comic book writers are wanting to get to TV. So I don't know what that means and whatnot. I'd love to hear an interview with him to see it. Maybe he's just always wanted to write for comic books. But yeah, like I said, he's doing a great run on Iron Man, and he did a great run on Doctor Doom. And so this got me excited about Obi-Wan. But yeah, he in the Iron Man run, the big thing the last few issues was he created the cosmic Iron Man, which he had godlike powers. Um, I think the last couple of issues of that he kind of stumbled, and I didn't like what he did with Tony Stark. I don't think Tony Stark would have done what he did in it. I don't know. We might get further in detail in this in a later podcast, maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, there's something that happens that like nah, Tony Stark wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, some good stuff. So I'm excited about Obi-Wan.
Good. All right. I will check. I'll have to put this on the back list, but check it out eventually. And then we're Dogs of Hunt. What's this about? I've not seen it at all.
Yeah, this I wanted to throw in an independent comic because usually all we talk about is DC and Marvel, which isn't a bad thing, but we need to start giving some love to independents as well. And this is from Aftershock Comics. The writer has written for DC and Marvel, Peter Milligan, and really I'm basing my recommend off of his name alone because this is obviously going to be a new IP. This is issue number 1, so great time to jump in on this. And from what it sounds like, it's there's something with the underworld during the 60s in London that's coming back, and it's going to be violent. It says is a brutal, bloody tale of violence, love, revenge, and sleeping dogs who refuse to roll over and play dead. So the cover kind of grabbed my attention. The writer is definitely a writer that I enjoy reading. So I'm definitely going to grab issue number 1. Obviously, I can't recommend it since I haven't read it yet. But if you're in your local comic book shop at the time and thumb through it, and it looks interesting, I'd maybe go ahead and grab it. I'm going to grab it and at least read issue number 1. Like I said, based on the strong track record of the writer, I would say some good, maybe good stuff.
All right, I will follow you closely with this one and see if it's one to keep up with, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then you have Flashpoint. What's going on with Flash?
Yeah, I won't belabor this, but the Flashpoint, I think I said last week, I thought I'd read Flashpoint, the original series with the Flash, and I hadn't. So this weekend I went ahead and caught up on it and read it, and I really enjoyed it. Geoff Johns is an amazing writer. Issue 0's already come out on this. There was another spotlight issue that spotlighted on Thomas Wayne Batman that I talked about last week as well. And this series is a sequel to Flashpoint. The stuff that they fixed in Flashpoint is messing up again, and the alternate world's coming back, and Thomas Wayne is hell-bent on fixing it, and that's Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, on the cover there. And he's holding Aquaman's trident and Wonder Woman's sword there. And in the Flashpoint, if you read Flashpoint, there was basically Bruce Wayne had died. Thomas Wayne had become a Punisher-like Batman. Superman was nowhere to be found, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman were dead set in this war where Aquaman had put Europe underwater and Wonder Woman had taken over the UK, and they were in a war against each other.
Okay.
And so it was a world on the brink of war, and Flash was just trying to get everything fixed back up so the world would go back to normal. And he enlisted Thomas Wayne to help out because Thomas Wayne wanted to do it because he wanted to save his son.
Right.
So the original Flashpoint is definitely worth reading, and since it's the same writer, this will be just as good, or at least definitely a good read. So this is a good jumping on point with issue number 1.
Good
It looks
cover.
like it looks like it's going to be a 6-issue series from cover.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. That comes to my recommendation this week, which I did read. Hulk Grand Design Madness. And this is like number 2. There was one before this one, but basically it's like a very quick, it's got 44 pages or so, but it rolls through pretty much the history of the Hulk. It covers a lot of ground very quickly. So if you are familiar or broadly familiar with the Hulk story arcs and whatnot, I am clueless beyond like probably the first third of the Hulk's history, but still, like it still carries you through most of the issue here. And I'm going to try to pull up a little bit of this here and then just kind of roll through it real quick. Not too crazy, but it's just
and I read this too.
But yeah, so basically this kind of carries you through like very truncated history of it, but it's still, it doesn't leave you too confused. It still kind of covers the broad brushstrokes of the thing, and it's one that is just interesting, and I have no idea why they're doing this, but I really dig the artwork. I really dig the throwback to old. There's even like one point like where you think that they took like a blue ink Bic, like where they wrote the Hulk sucks or whatever, but like the artwork in this is just great, and it held my attention, and I don't know why I fixated on this one, but I started reading it and I was like, oh my god, this is really good.
Yeah, and the writer artist on this is Jim Rugg, and him and Ed Piskor, they have a YouTube channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe, where they go in depth and look over comic books, but they are both very much independent comic book writers and artists. Ed Piskor did the Red Room, which I talked about on a podcast a few weeks back. But Ed Piskor, I think a year or two ago, he did. It's been at least 2, maybe 3 years. He did the exact same thing that Jim Rugg is doing with X-Men, which I haven't got those. I want to pick those up. But yeah, so Ed Piskor did X-Men, and then I forget who did Fantastic Four, but they did it with Fantastic Four. And now Jim Rugg, Ed Piskor's buddy, is doing Hulk, which is kind of makes sense in a way that they both are doing it. But they both have a kind of a definite indie kind of sensibility, and they bring that to this. And but Jim Rugg does, like you said, an excellent job of echoing that old art style from the original comic books, but giving its own flavor and making it make sense. And I've been rereading or going through Peter David's run on the Hulk, which covers like I think at least 200 issues. So while I was reading it, I freshly read a lot of these stories, so it was kind of fun seeing what he did to kind of consolidate storyline. And of course, he skipped over a bunch of stuff, but he made it, like you said, make sense.
No, and they do pay homage to specific like story arcs. They let you know like the actual original title and chapter verse, so to speak.
They have like an appendix at the end. Yeah.
They do that, but they also kind of throw in like a comic book cover, like Peter David. They did.
I
love Peter David. Like he's good. But they roll through the entire history. If you're a Hulk fan, this one is one to get. And then there's one before this, and I think there's one coming up as well. But regardless, this is one I just jumped into randomly because just was drawn to it. I am going through the Batman Imposter one, but we just came off the heels of the Batman, and I didn't want to, just be all Batman. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll revisit that as more issues roll out and whatnot. Same for the Death of Wolverine. That's just a lot to take in, and I only have so much time, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I would rather give a very nuanced take on it, aside from like it's good or it's bad or whatever. But this one, I was thoroughly enjoyed it. It's about 15 more pages than your regular comic book, probably, well, more than that, but 44 pages or so, but still good. And with that, and I'm glad to see that they didn't do like 15 variant covers for this thing, but and that's okay. They can do whatever they want. But
Right.
the other thing that when I kept going back to the original Moon Knight, and this is a good segue. There's not much more to say about this other than like read it. It's good. You won't be disappointed. It does jump around quite a bit through Hulk's timeline, but in a way that you won't lose track of things. The only glaring thing is like the only thing that kind of owns comic books is like these characters have died a million times and they've been brought back millions. It's kind of like Days of Our Lives, like soap opera, a little bit, like where 1 week somebody dies and then like a few weeks later, a month later, they're back. And it was their twin or something like that. But regardless, this really reminded me of the early Hulk, where they were trying to nail down who the Hulk was and what that meant. And at some points during the Hulk story arc, it was very much like Moon Knight, where it was multiple personalities. It was just like this split dichotomy between these two creatures that were still one, like where they could not function or live in independent of the other for very long anyway. And the other the other thing that was like Betty Ross was like, like she's pivotal in the Hulk story, and like millions of tons of ink has been spilled over talking about Betty Ross and the Hulk and whatnot. But in any case, that it really reminded me of Moon Knight, at least this incarnation of him, kind of sort of like where that. But with that being said, this is a strong recommend on mine.
And we may want to in the future do a episode on the Hulk.
Absolutely, that would be great. This particular episode does not lie. It definitely touches on the madness part of Hulk and like not knowing whether you're coming or going. If you're the Hulk, at least anyway, you kind of get that discombobulated feel of the character as he rolls through, as you roll through the storyline. But in any case, this kind of brings us up to
and if you just know the Hulk from the movies, of course, and the TV, the old 70s TV series, you may be a little confused as the Hulk in those are the mindless, smash Hulk. But he's like Mike said, he's gone through very different incarnations, and where that the Hulk gets his Bruce Banner's intelligence, or he's there's like the Devil Hulk, which wants to destroy the world, in Immortal Hulk. But there's various incarnations and different colors of Hulk. There's been a gray Hulk, a green Hulk, a red Hulk. So and there's a Hulk son named Scar, but we're getting a little in the weeds now. But and with Betty Ross, there's been incarnations of her too. So she has become the Red Hulk, and even Red Hulk has gone through. I think her newest form is more like a bird-like Hulk that was introduced in Immortal Hulk. But I'll throw it back to Mike now.
This is definitely, it covers the madness of it, and that madness kind of like we'll duplex that into or suplex that into the Moon Knight for this past week. I'm just gonna be honest with you, and I kind of touched on this before, like we started the show. This thing started very, very, very good, very high, and as it's kind of gone on, there's no other way to say this, but it's starting to lose my interest. And if this is my point of like having it, like I felt like the Batman was too long, but I also feel like Moon Knight, there's only 6 episodes, and I feel like it's too short. And I feel like I'll be vindicated by the time we see the end of it this week or whatever. But since we kind of covered this, this really left the whole gods thing kind of sort of off to the side, and it really dealt with the individual personalities that are Mark and Steven. Still haven't seen what his third person is, or alleged third person is of his personality. But it left me like, this is kind of like an off episode, I would call it. Like where you take a little bit of a detour through the actual character and whatnot, and notwithstanding the actual storyline. I was not. I mean, it was good. I think it was better than a couple episodes. Like, I'm not really prepared to say which episode sucked the most. Probably like the third. Well, I don't know. This is probably going to be one of the more. It's just it almost dogged out the series for me personally. I'm not quite sure if you reached that point sooner than I did, which I kind of feel. But this one, I'm just gonna put it out there. If they don't fix this and like make the last episode really, really good and special, I'm probably gonna be very disappointed. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. My feelings on it. I hate to be that guy and say that's not my Hulk, but
Right.
or not my Moon Knight. Not my Hulk either, but that's not my Moon Knight, because they're, and I guess it's a good character to do it with, since hardly anyone really knows Moon Knight, but they're taking the character so far off the rails as far as who that character is in the comic books, that I've been resisting as the episodes go by, and the further and further away from the comic book they get. In this issue, this episode, they delve into, like I said, his past and his childhood, which the only thing that is correct from the comic book is that he's Jewish. That's the only thing that they carried from the comic book into this. Outside that, he does have a brother, but I'll just say in the comic book, he runs into his brother present day.
Right.
That if you've seen the episode, you know that things have changed.
This was like the first on point one, like where it plainly showed that the character was Jewish. And as a Jew, I sympathize with that, and I like that. But it's almost like they were trying to fill the bucket of. There are 2 iterations of Moon Knight out in his history. There is one that has to do with the original Moon Knight, which is personalities and this kind of thing. And then there's the second iteration where it's more about gods and this and that, things that were not quite lining up with the original Moon Knight. And I feel like this was like trying to bridge those maybe, but I don't know if they stuck the landing. It doesn't outright suck, but it kind of makes me like, do I want to see if it weren't the last episode? Honestly, it would probably make me want to be like, oh, I'll dip into this later.
Yeah, if it's like a 13 episode series, it'd be like, I don't know. But yeah, and the thing that's grown more and more on my nerves with Marvel is the forced humor. Moon Knight could get away with just being straight drama with maybe hints of humor, but this episode especially had way too much humor for the subject matter that was going on with the issue, or with the episode. They were dealing with some heavy things for the character, and bless Oscar Isaac, he did a wonderful job of jumping from the stupid stuff to the drama, and making it all work on his part. But as far as the episode, it didn't. I mean, you can have the silly hippo woman, but she didn't quite work with what was going on in
Well,
the episode.
it was a very
Oh,
it
and
was
another unsung hero is Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke, I don't think we've touched on.
no, we
He's done a
haven't.
great job
No,
throughout the
I would
series.
agree. Whether the episode was like actually that good or not, well, we won't know until months and months passes until we can kind of digest this and whatnot. But so far, I will say this: I will give kudos. Oscar Isaac has been great for this throughout the entire thing with what he was given to work with. Anyway, Ethan Hawke too, absolutely a stunning showcase, and this did in as far as the context of this storyline, Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac really work very well together. You know, it does work on some level. It does work, so I think that's probably going to be redeeming as we go forward. But you know, the tail of the tape tells all. So, and we're at the very end of this in a few short, maybe 48 hours or so. We'll see the finale to this, and we'll see how it goes. You know, I don't think it dips into like a void or whatever. Like some of the smaller screen Marvel stuff I've been very disappointed with on the Disney Plus side, Disney Marvel side. I just don't care. I just don't care to like beyond like episode one. If you don't hook me, I'm gone. Like I'm not gonna. Well, I'm not gonna sit through like a whole season of crap just to get to the point. I'm just not gonna do it. I mean, I will for this stuff, maybe, but
And there's a sense to me that like it feels like they're holding the good stuff for the movies. It's like we'll save all that. So a lot of the series has been kind of filler, like in comic book speak, the issues that are kind of fillers that kind of fill in for in between the big events. So yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I think that's probably all we can say about the current episode.
With that, in any case, moving on. We have our YouTube recommendations for this week, and you have two, my friend. They look like the same, kind of sort of the same.
Yeah. The first one is a history lesson, and then the second one is the actual recommend. Back in 2013, a young filmmaker, I forget his name, but he went into a Boston comic book shop called the Comic Book Palace, and Glenn O'Leary is the owner of it, and he thought it'd be a great idea to do a documentary on his comic book shop, and that's what he did, and he posted it to the website or to YouTube. And afterwards he got the idea maybe a year or two later of maybe doing a web series on the comic book shop. And this is what that original, if you go back to the original one, this is the first I guess almost 50 issue or 50 episodes series of this, and it would be and it was great since it's Boston. You got all those larger than life personalities in that comic book shop. You get, and Glenn's a character in and of himself. He's a great character, and it's great if that these are archived, that you can go back and watch. They're kind of dated as far as what comic books they're talking about, but they talk about what we talk about on this podcast. It's just a good back and forth. It's what the if you remember, Kevin Smith had a TV series on AMC, the comic book store, but that was and it took place in a comic book store in one of his with their workers, but it was so scripted, and it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't. This is more or less what I was looking for in a show like that. Just real honest to God comic book collectors just shooting the shit in in a comic book store. And
Kevin Smith for me has kind of like been this slow kind of
definitely
like height up here and then just kind of like going down to like I don't really care. Not that bad, but you get the point.
Yeah, so this story arc, this is the archive channel. What happened was right right at the pandemic, obviously the comic book stores shut down. So the filmmaker that was doing the series had to stop filming. And much like everybody else during that time, went a little crazy. And he deleted all the videos. He got really mad and sent out a Facebook post from his channel saying that he was mad with everybody, that people were supporting Glenn, sending him money, ordering all the stuff, and they're kind of ignoring him in that they weren't giving him any money or support for his channel, and that he was mad at the world, and he's deleting everything, and just F off everybody. And which was kind of a shock to everybody, because one, he never ever said anything about support, or if he did, it wasn't much, and he was always behind the camera. He wasn't a personality. So it's human nature to focus on the person in front of the camera, which is Glenn, the comic book owner. And Glenn would obviously say that the guy who was running the channel did everything. All Glenn provided was the comic book shop and him talking to the camera. He didn't do anything else. So it was pretty much. And if you watch these old episodes, they're well put together, well edited. The guy did a great job on all these episodes, and they're definitely worth a watch. But the guy really should have made his frustration known prior to this blow up. And everybody did say that afterwards, like, hey, I didn't know that this was going on. We didn't know. And we would have done something otherwise. And then I noticed that he slowly started re-uploading those videos and set up, and he made a little apology saying I did overreact and all of this. So I don't know if this is his original channel uploads or if someone else did upload these. But I think these are almost all the original episodes. I think there's like some missing spots here and there.
Well, there's one thing the internet's good for. It's archive, especially when they love something and they want to see it. And yeah, I agree with that statement completely. It is,
So I thought the channel was dead and gone. So this past weekend, I was like, oh man, I was kind of missing this channel. I was like, I wonder if there's another channel like this. So I started doing a little search, and lo and behold, this new channel popped up, and it's not by the same guy. If you want to go to the next channel, or recommendation. The comic book palace. So this is the new channel. It's done by a different guy, different filmmaker who's doing it. It's slightly different. They're still kind of working out the kinks. There's only 9 regular episodes. One thing that they've done, and I haven't had a chance to went through and watched all the current 9 episodes, but they do a lot of recommendations, new this week comic book things. So, and then I don't think on the other channel, but on this channel they have the original documentary. So if you want to watch that as well, that's definitely a recommend as well. But yeah, so the editing isn't quite as good as the original, but it's really great to have the channel back, and you're being reintroduced to the cast of characters that had been in the comic book shop, and to be honest, I kind of missed some of these guys and what they talk about and stuff. So yeah, if you're at all kind of interesting in nerd talk, which if you're watching this as far as you've gotten so far, you are. So this is a definite recommend. But yeah, like I said, it's a comic book shop in Boston, so you got the whole Boston area, at least Boston flavor and personalities, kind of louder than life, kind of, and they get it. They frequently get into arguments. Not all nerds think alike. So, and Glenn will let you know his opinion on certain artists and writers. If he doesn't like them, like he's notoriously dislikes John Romita Jr.'s artwork. And one of our favorites for our channel, Department of Truth, he says that artwork is garbage. He says
I
if
disagree.
anyone, yeah, I know. And he said if when people come into the comic book shop looking for that comic, he goes, go back there, and if you see the worst cover on the back, that's it. And he goes, they don't have any problem finding it.
Right.
And
Right.
this is an old school comic book shop. It only has comic books and baseball cards. Forget those Funko Pops. No toys, no nothing. You got your
No
comic
D&D,
books.
no
Yeah.
no Pokemon cards, no Rick and Morty.
Oh, he does have
blind boxes.
He does have Pokemon cards.
All right.
Yeah, but yeah, anything card related he has. Cards and comic books. But yeah.
So if you want to park a card, have a yacht, or put your car keys in your khakis, then this would be the one to do it.
Yep. But
awesome.
Yeah, and he's I forget his phrasing. I think when he reads his comic books, they're always up for being fired. If he doesn't like a particular comic book, it's fired and he won't read it anymore.
That's funny.
But yeah, like I said, they're definite personalities on this channel. And just watch a few episodes. If you want the whole lore, you like I said, go back to that original channel, and there's like I said, 50 episodes, and they're all like between 20 and 30 minutes. They're not huge time investments.
Yeah, he definitely has the look of
Yeah.
how to put this nicely, a Linux nerd, where it's all old school. You have to read the manual. Like Linux nerds are probably the worst as far as like hardcore ones anyway. Like where like you have a question about something that doesn't work. Why did you read the manual or read the effing manual or whatever, like that kind of thing. Like that's kind of maybe justified, maybe not. I don't know, but
if you well, with being old school, that's definitely him. He's the sole owner and worker of the shop, so he's the only guy that's there. So if it's open, he's there, and he's up at his desk. He's got his old school cash register and his old school calculator. He does it up on his calculator as he adds up your comic books, and then he rings it up in his old school register. So
that's funny. Cool. Anything else to add?
No, just a huge recommend for me, and I think it's perfect for our channel.
No, I agree. I want to. I mean, aside from slightly making fun of him, like I would still, I say all that stuff, but I would still, if I was in the Boston area and I heard him, I would still listen to him because he knows way more than I do. I might not do what he says or whatever, but I would definitely listen. The kind of what you want in a comic book shop is an opinionated guy. Like, all joking aside, you want somebody to be your guide, especially if you're not into it like I am, to kind of be like, hey, what happened to this storyline or what happened to that storyline? You just kind of want a good cut, not just selling you everything is awesome. Like if anybody says, oh, they're all awesome, walk away, because you're not getting a real opinion. And that's not the real world. It's anyway, etc. But
one of his t-shirts he wears says no apologies. So that kind of sums up. And my if we got another guest, I would love to have him on the show. That would be a dream guest. But I don't know how hard it is to get a hold of him. But that would be a dream interview. So
and just to run defense on his shirt for no apologies. The thing is, though, if you want to hear an answer, don't ask a question. And I'll defend him all day long for that, because people ask some questions and then they get turned off by like what the opinion is. Well, don't get too don't get too attached to what your whatever is, because you are asking somebody that knows more than you. And if you listen to them, you'll whether he's wrong or right on this or that is irrelevant.
And he does. He has a bit of a charm to him, so that even if you disagree with him, even if he's arguing with you, you're still laughing and having a good time. So
sure, kudos to him for rocking the mustache. That is just not something I can do. But and to be fair, this is 2013, so who knows? But any case,
he's just gotten a little bigger and rounder as the years have gone by. But
you know what? Round is a shape too.
Definitely. And what do you have to recommend for us this week?
Yeah, thanks. I have an old school throwback. This kind of gained a little bit more traction probably like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago when they brought back the all Thanksgiving marathon, which they used to have in years past for Mystery Science Theater 3000. This is like, I'm not going to go into the thing of like whether it was original Joel or whatever, but still, having said that, this still kind of pulls in the just the highlights of it and gives you what's your appetite for the taste of it. I don't know about you, but going back to Comedy Central, when Comedy Central was like a nobody station, I remember watching avidly Mystery Science Theater 3000, which for the uninitiated, what that means is they would have these 2 robots and this human that were trapped on the spaceship by these evil folks or whatever, and they would be forced to watch these horrible tier movies. And then essentially what they're doing is they're just ripping on them or ad-libbing as they go on. Very funny. Even though these don't have some of the original cast members, it's still relevant and it's still funny. If you have a few minutes to watch, I think they had Turkey Day Marathon. I don't know why they had this truncated, but they used to okay, there it is. Okay, cool. So they have the Turkey Day Marathon, and they still have like where they actually show the movie. And a lot of these movies are so old, they're either copyright doesn't apply or whatever, as that goes. But it's just basically Tim Servo and Crow, the robots, puppet robots, and then like your human cast member, and then they'll just kind of do like an overlay, and then they'll just rip on the movie or they'll whatever. It's just funny. It's just good, mindless entertainment. That kind of pulls at my heartstrings because it's been so long. And and this, we're talking about going back to the early OOs, but basically it's a very weak. It's funny.
I first started watching MS T3K. Well, whatever the initials are. I started watching them before Comedy Central. They were like, I think it was like syndicated to different cable local cable networks, and they would show it like Saturday night, like at midnight or something. And I really enjoyed watching those back in the day, and I've kept up with them off and on, and they gave birth to like a lot of different things. I think without them, we wouldn't have Red Letter Media. Those guys are sort of spiritual ancestors,
That's a good point. So I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Because they're best of the worst. They don't obviously do it quite like they do it. They do their own little take on bad movies. But they're still making jokes and having fun with everything. So I definitely recommend this too. It's always funny, and I think some of the original members have another channel or called Riff.
Probably do. I do know that there's been the different incarnations of this over the years, like where even I think it's still around, where basically if you want to get your MSC 3000 fix, what you would do is you would go to their website, maybe pay a few shekels or whatever, and then you get the audio track to it, and then you could play that while you were watching whatever movie it was. So you could kind of enjoy it. I never did that. I don't quite know how they had that set up, but it was a little bit clunky, and I don't think it works in this modern era. And for You have to be
Yeah.
a really diehard fan to like go that.
Yeah.
I'm not, but
No, I think some of the original guys have a channel on Pluto TV. So
okay,
if
yep,
those
Pluto.
Pluto TV people, out there, they might be able to dial into that as well.
Yeah, and like maybe I don't know about Thanksgiving or whatever, but for some reason Thanksgiving is like their centennial day, so to speak, or annual day of like doing. They'll have a big watch through. Like I put it on in the background, like while we were cooking or whatever, just to have background chatter. That wasn't like whatever. Most folks probably watch the NFL shows and games and whatnot that day, but this is just a good nerdy alternative to kind of put on the background like once a year and just kind of enjoy it. I got my son hooked on this like years ago, like when he was just a little bit older and we could stay up till a little bit later and watch kind of these things. He just chuckled and laughed, and it was just nothing is really out of line or whatnot. They might say a thing or two, but for the most part, I think it's pretty tame compared to other things.
Yeah, and most of that stuff goes over their heads anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But and with that being said, I do have an extra special edition, which I found, which is this thing, and this is the first time you're seeing this. I'm kind of springing this on you, like not quite surprised, but it's a surprise. But basically, and I won't go into the article, but it was something I found, and it's basically like there's this archives of Scarfolk, the internet's creepiest fake town. And basically it kind of like, this is just an internet only phenomenon, like where a bunch of people have kind of come together and like they've made different, not memes, but like they've used different portions of the internet to kind of cast this very obscure, I'll just read the very brief here lead here. Let's take a moment to explain the picture above. 1978, the town of Scarfolk, northwest New England, or northwest England, cut its police budget in half. This drastic measure was followed by a wave of violent crime to deal with the influx of dead bodies. The remaining police did the obvious. They teamed up with Keep Britain Tidy campaign and encouraged citizens, especially children, to pick up victim debris themselves. This is kind of like more on your lane, where it's just kind of like sheer spookiness, and I'll just kind of roll through like just kind of the thing like of how they've made this into a thing. It's just a fascinating article, and I'll include it in the description, but it's just cool. It just has those kind of like where we recommended earlier in the year, the back room kind of sort of thing. Like it's just like this thing that is just like these people that are very insular, and they're not, they shun outsiders, and if you're a foreigner or outsider, it's just interesting. It's just fascinating. But
is this sort of like a ARG, or is just
ARG?
And ARG is sort of like a online game where you take the pieces and try to figure out the puzzle of what's going on.
Maybe, I don't know. I only know it from this article. It's a very good article, kind of like it allows you to kind of explore, but like, just kind of like some of the out there things like are you being followed? Yes, all the above, D, yes. It's just like it just kind of leaves you like with this creepy kind of feeling thing. But anyway, with that being said, it's just a very short kind of bump, like for a website. Like
I'll have to check that out. Oh, and a big question for you to jump subject really quick. What do you have planned for May 4th? Do you have your lightsaber ready?
Maybe, I don't know. My lightsaber's kind of been dulled very much, even though it's impossible for a lightsaber to be dulled, but we'll see.
You can combine May 4th with free comic book day and dress up in your Star Wars fashion for
to be honest with you, I'm not the LARPing type, but that's okay. About as far as LARPing as I go would be like Stargate, but I never got around to going to a Stargate specific con, so to speak. But honestly, the Stargate one would be very lazy for me because I was in the military. So really all I'd have to do is put on a pair of old uniforms and like get the patches, and then I'd be good. And maybe a fake P90 because they use that all the time in the show. But that's probably about the limit of my LARPing thing. But I've never done that, and I just never wanted to. But that's just me. Like, God bless the nerds that do. God bless you. That there are some folks that take the really jaw-dropping attention to detail for the links they go to make their outfits what they are. So kudos to them. Like, I just don't have that time or will to do that. But
back in the a few years back when people would say, "Oh, it's Halloween. What are you gonna dress up as?" Answer was always Louis C.K. I'll be dressed up as Louis C.K. And
well, he's back in everybody's good graces, so that should be okay now. But
for a while there, I couldn't say that without looking a little weird. But
whatever, you get money, you get a little bit of money, you get in a little bit of controversy, whether that's right or wrong, who cares? I don't know. That's not my I'm not the judge and jury and executioner for that crap. So it is what it is. But with that being said, I think we're coming to the end of this this week's episode. I really enjoyed this. Just enjoying the comic books as they are. Like, comment, subscribe. Please let us know if we're doing right, we're doing wrong. It's all good. We really need to get some feedback from folks. We had a setback with some things last week, and we learned a lesson. We learned a very hard lesson. And more importantly, we have more patience. Thank you, Thomas, for bringing me back to center a couple times. I angrily typed to you, in the middle of the night, whatever. But and I think we kind of had that both coming and going here a little bit for both of us. But
I think it's a bit frustrating for both of us as creators, because we could see what other people are able to do on the side as opposed to us, and we feel the boot on our neck sometimes just because we're small creators, and it's a bit frustrating, but it's all part of growing pains, and we'll work with it. And like Mike said, there's a bunch of public domain videos, so maybe next time we talk about a Batman movie, we might show scenes from the Batman serial that's in public domain, free and out there. So so if we can't show scenes from Batman, we can show scenes from the old 40s Batman.
and of course, like somebody who is pretty much a real life, either if you're a Marvel guy, Tony Stark, or if you're if you're a DC guy, it's real life Bruce Wayne. We have Elon Musk tilling some fields of very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what grows from his field as time kind of goes on. But not
someone
really into that. But he is probably the closest thing that we have to like somebody that is out there and is really like pushing the boundaries of what's possible or what we could or couldn't do or whatever. Like with all of what he's doing. But it's just
one of our fellow YouTubers calls him the real life Tony Starks.
I would agree. I think he's a little bit more of a Tony Stark than a Bruce Wayne, obviously, but that's just me. I've also heard some Dune nerds claim him for them or whatever, but every group claims whoever their favorite heroes are or whatever, or whatever it is. But with that being said,
one last thing. I know last week I began the episode with the Chinese fortune. I thought today we would end with a Chinese fortune. This one I'm a little puzzled by. It's not really a fortune. It says leaders are like eagles. They don't flock. You find them one at a time.
And with that, no, go ahead.
We're all eagles here.
Yeah, we are. We are very much eagles. Maybe a turkey occasionally, but that's Ben Franklin. I'll go out with Ben Franklin. All right. Well, thanks for another wonderful week. Please, again, if you're out there, please subscribe, like, comment. We would love to hear you. And maybe we can start to showcase some things that fans do. But
and catch our Star Trek episode. I'm watching Star Trek for the first time. We'll have
Wednesdays.
that later out this week. Yeah, on Wednesday.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks again, Thomas. We'll see
Yep.
you next week.
See you.